that good? You can hear me? I'll stick that in my pocket. Well, you still didn't get the probably, all of that. Oh, it's hard to take sometimes. It's humiliating because God uses the most inadequate instruments to accomplish His will, so there'll be no mistaking His will. So that's how I'll premise my remarks. I have 10 children. By far the greatest accomplishment to date, and my wife is a saint, and so she should be here talking to you, to be honest with you. So anybody wants to get up, move around, make some noise, throw some food, I'm okay with it. It won't even faze me a bit. What I want to do today, it is probably very much of a different type talk, sport and society, reclaiming the game. And I came to it in a very practical way. As you've heard my background, you can almost ask the next question is, how the heck did you ever become president of Belmont Abbey College? That's another whole long story that I won't go into today. But my whole background, my whole life has been surrounded in sport in some aspect of it. And I see that as kind of a blessing in my life because it's given me a different perspective on viewing sport in the world. And I've seen it really change quite a bit over the last 25 years. And so because of that, it's led me to certain things. And as I look at sport today, it touches everybody. I think sometimes we marginalize sport to some degree. We think, well, yeah, that's not really, sure. Well, let me ask this. How many people either watched a game or participated in athletics or worked out this week? Raise your hand. Okay, so what happened to the other 3 people in the room that didn't? They were sick and laid up in bed and couldn't get to the TV, I guess. My point being, sport affects the entire world. It is incredible the effect that sport has come to have on all of us in some way. Now, even somebody who has no interest in sport at all, they still get stuck in traffic, going to the Super Bowl. So it affects us directly or indirectly in some way. It touches everybody. And so we've sort of let it just evolve. It's just sort of running on its own, and we look at it, and we'll read the papers, and we read about scandals, and we read about all kinds of other issues and problems within the world of sport, and we'll often say, isn't that terrible? But then we go right on watching the games and, supporting all the other things that are going on and really take very little notice of it. And I'd say I've had enough, so I'm bringing attention to it. I wish I could do more from a scholarly standpoint. As you can see, my background has been more of a pragmatic one in terms of being in business and having worked with pro athletes most of my life. That's the perspective that I'm coming to it today to kind of share this with you. Pro sports, as I've come to see it over the years of working with, I've worked with directly, personally, hundreds of professional athletes. I've probably spoken to thousands of professional athletes. And unfortunately, pro sport has become the poster child for vice. I mean, pride, envy, sloth, anger, gluttony, lust. I mean, you go through the thing. I mean, it's all there, And I look at that and I say, well, is that really sport? Is that really all the people that are in it, that's what they're about? No. I will tell you the vast majority of people that I know in professional sport are solid, good people, men and women who you would love to have friends, who you'd respect, but that's not what gets put out there. And so the media and the internet and communication in today's world has exponentially increased the messages that come to us and the effect that they have. And that effect is no longer at just the pro level. You now see it at a college level. And I don't know what you think. I don't know if you saw an article that came out some time ago in USA Today. It was on the NCAA cracking down on college coaches. And I was out of my mind reading this because there were any number of coaches, many from this region, who were quoted as saying, to some degree, how unreasonable it was not to be able to get up and actually curse at a referee. I mean, this was absolutely necessary. And, there was all kinds of reasons and rationales given why this was acceptable and okay, and everything from I can't control myself to, the pressure that's created by the... And I'm sitting there listening to this train of thought just thinking, this is like crazy. I mean, this has really gotten out of hand. And it's so subtle now that we hardly notice it. We just come to accept, well, I guess what can we say? The guy's saying F you to somebody, but he's a really good coach and he's won a lot of games. You can't do it. But we allow it, we accept it. And again, as a whole, I don't think any one of us individually would say, I think that's fine. I think we'd all say, no, that's not right. That's crossing a certain line. But we don't do anything about it. We just sort of say that shouldn't be that way, and we go on watching the games and seeing everything happen, and it continues to evolve. Part of it has to do with the fact that money has become such an integral part of sport that it really drives everything. And then when you get to the idea of virtue, which I really want to address today in sport, it's not even a consideration. It's not even something people are talking about. It's certainly not a consideration when a coach is being hired typically. So what I wanted to talk about is this idea of sport, and I say, okay, it's come down to college, it now drifts down to the high school level, and it's even down at the youth level. As I said, I have 10 children, so I can probably fill any age, you know, through quite a long range. But one of my sons was playing, this was a few years ago, in a 5th grade game, and it was like this little CYO league. And he's playing the basketball game, and you know his school was small. They could barely get 7 guys. I mean, if you were a guy and went to the school, you were on the basketball team. It didn't matter what you looked like, what your athletic ability was, you were on the team. And this other team came in, and they had 14 people on the team, and they had 3 coaches, and they all had matching wristbands and sweatbands, and they had bags and shirts, and they came in and. I mean, my guys, watching them, they had trouble making layups and warm up. This team is doing weave drills, I mean, they're I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be like really just humiliating for them, not for me. I don't get involved, to be honest with you. I could share my ideas about the whole parental involvement in sport. So I'm watching this game go on. There's about 2 minutes left in the game. This team is up 32 points. And here's my point. The coach on the other team is jumping up and screaming at the top of his lungs, press, press. 2 minutes to go in a youth 5th grader game. They're up by 32 points. He's screaming press. Guess what happens? They press, they steal the ball, they score again. They're up 34 points. And all the parents in the stands of the opposing team jump up screaming in praise of their superhuman athlete that just made this incredible play. And I'm thinking, am I in the Twilight Zone? I mean, is this only me that is seeing what's going on in this environment? There's something terribly wrong. And now it's down, it's affecting everything. And we just go on, and we say, well, that's just the way it is. And I'm saying, no, that's not the way it is. Just like what this association is about, this foundation is about, it's about doing something. It's about taking action. It's about being proactive. It's the only way it's going to change. And the vast majority of people, I think, will probably share much of what I have to say today. But we don't do anything about it, and I'm going to encourage you by the end of today, a call to action to do something about it, not to accept it any longer.